everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. You are watching my knitting podcast videos. My name is Sari and today is time for another tutorial. So I made the sunset camisole tutorial a while back and now I have been making a tutorial for the Wood Anemone top. So it's the one that I'm wearing at the moment and we are going to start working the top at the top of the triangles. So you first work these little triangle parts, the same on the back, and then we are going to join the fronts together, then work the back in a similar way. So you work two triangles, join them together, and then we will add them or join them together at the underarm. So we are joining the front and the back pieces and then working the body and ending with the hem. So the hem is double folded, so you can see it here. So it's seamed or sewed on the wrong side of the work, so I will show you all these steps. And lastly we make the I-cord straps, joining the fronts and the back. So that's the construction of the Wood Anemone top, and I'm going to be showing you all the steps, how to make it, all the stitches you need to complete your own Wood Anemone top. And the version that I'm wearing today, this has these little bubbles, so I'm going to show you how to make the bubbles as well. But the pattern has an option for a bubble free top. So if you don't like making bubbles, or if you think the top look nicer without the bubbles, then you can leave the bubbles out. It's very easy and I will show you how to do that as well. So the version that, like I said, the version that I'm going to be working is the bubble-less version, but I'm going to still show you how to make the bubbles, so don't worry about that if you want to make them. I think the bubbles add something a little bit, they bring out more the floral aspect, so without the bubbles it looks more like leaves. So these kind of remind me of little flowers. And yeah, I'll be showing you what yarns you need, and then I will show you all the steps that you need to complete your own Wood Anemone top. So let's talk a bit about what materials you need for completing your own Wood Anemone top. And the yarn that I used for this yellow sample is Re-jeans from Pascuali Re-jeans, and this is recycled jeans. And the composition is 95% cotton and 5% other fibers, and this is the colorway 7, so it's a really nice lemon color. It has a little tweed knobs here and there, so it is a really nice yarn. It's DK or like slightly maybe on the worsted side, so a bit. You can choose like a heavy DK or light worsted weight yarn. Like I said, it's a cotton yarn, so it's really nice for summer. And here's another color option that I really like. It's like this caramel camel sandy color, so this is the colorway 23. So I really like this one as well. You could also use, for example, I have Woolberry Fiber Company's, this is Berry Cashmere DK, so it has 80% merino, 10% cashmere and 10% nylon, but it's more like a woolen yarn, so it's going to be a bit warmer than this one. But of course, if you want to have a slightly warmer one that you can wear like a vest, like over a t-shirt or something like that, it's also, I think, a really nice option. I'm going to be using fingering weight yarn held double for my top, so I'm going to be using Knitting for Olives pure silk. This is the colorway Quince, but I'm going to be choosing this really nice raspberry pink colorway for mine. And I'm going to be holding the yarn double, so I think that is going to be as thick as a single strand of the Re-jeans yarn. So if you're going to be substituting yarns, make sure you swatch your yarns properly. So make a little swatch, try out the stitch patterns, block the swatch, and then measure your gauge from that swatch and try to match the one that is given on the pattern. So of course, even if you are using the same yarn that I did, everybody has a slightly different knitting, kind of like handwriting, knitting style. So some people knit looser, some people knit tighter. It's kind of like the same thing that if you say to a person that walk 100 meters and count your steps, everybody is going to end up with a slightly different amount of steps. So it's the same thing if somebody says cast on 20 stitches and measure how wide it is, everybody is going to have a slight variation. So that's why it's very important for you to swatch before you start your pattern, because that's the way you know that you're going to end up with the right size garment and it's going to fit you as intended. So the stitch, needle size that is in the pattern is just a suggestion. It's the needle size that I used to get the right gauge. But it doesn't mean that you have to kind of like change your knitting style to match my style. Rather than try to find the needle size that gets you the right gauge. So I'm going to be using 3.5mm needles, but if you are a tight knitter, maybe you want to use a 4mm. So that's I think US 8 and 3.5 is US 6 if I remember correct, or maybe no, 3.5 is US 4 I think, and 4mm is US 6. I'll write it somewhere here so you don't get too confused. So if you are a tight knitter, you might need to go up the needle size, and if you are a loose knitter, you might need to pick a smaller needle. So choose your needles accordingly so that you get the right gauge, and rather than trying to use the needle size in the pattern to get the gauge, I think it's easier that way. So anyway, these are the alternatives, the one that I used and the one that I'm going to use for my second one. So if you want to do a fingering weight version, so holding two yarns together, there are plenty of options for you to choose. For example, I have Knitting for Olives Merino here, and this is the colorway Hokkaido, so you could also use this together, but of course again it's a merino yarn, it's going to be warmer than cotton or silk. Another yarn from Knitting for Olive that I really like is the cotton merino. So this is 70% cotton, 30% merino, and this is the dark ochre colorway, so it's really nice. And here's one more option. So there's plenty of options. You can always go on Ravelry and check out what other people have used for their projects. So if you go on Ravelry, there's a tab, I think it says something like yarn alternatives or yarn options or something like that. And if you click on that tab, you can see what yarns other people have used for the same project. So that's a really handy thing to do. I could also use Tynn from Sandnes garn. This is a really nice yarn as well. I really like this one. And this is also fingering weight yarn, so holding this double would do the trick. And this is the colorway 6032. So other things that you're going to be needing are knitting needles. I'm going to be using 3.5mm, so US 4 needles for my top, but you're going to use the needles that get you the right gauge, right? I like using circular needles, so this is a 60cm cable, so I think this is a really good for the front and the back. Maybe you want to have a slightly longer, like 80cm, or that's 32 inches, or a 100 centimeter, so 40-inch cable for your larger sizes, so for the body after you join the front and the back together. Then we have cable cords. If you have these are really handy. If you don't have them, you can just use waste yarn. And then we also need a tapestry needle for weaving in all the ends. So, and of course scissors and blocking tools and stuff like that. So that's everything we're going to be needing for the pattern. So check out the pattern itself. It's going to tell you how much yarn you need for each size and what everything else you need, and then we can start by casting on our stitches. So let's go. For the wood anemone top, we are going to start at the corner of one of these triangles. So we will work the triangle first and then work the second part and join them together. So we are starting with a provisional cast on over here, which makes it easier to pick up stitches later for the I-cord strap that connects the front and the back. So I have my 2 yarns over here, and then I also have a tiny little piece of waste yarn and my needles. I am starting by making a slip knot on the needle. So remember to use 2 strands of your main yarn if you're using the fingering weight yarn, or if you're using the heavier yarn, work with just 1 strand. And bring the waste yarn behind your main yarn and then just bring it to back and to front, and it creates a little twist, and put the main yarn on your needles. And let's do that again. So put the main yarn on the needle, bring the yarn back to the front, main yarn on the needle, and then let's do that one more time and just bring the yarn from back to front. And let's make a little slip knot here, so this will prevent the stitches from falling off the needles and the waste yarn from running away. And then turn the work. And for our first row we will just purl everything. So this is our setup row, and purl all the stitches, and the last one, and turn. And then we are ready to start working in the lace pattern. So what I will do, the first stitch is our edge stitch. So you can see that over there. So it's a slipped edge stitch. It's always knitted on the right side of the work and then slipped on the wrong side of the work. So knit it. Then we will follow the chart. So we have purl 1, a yarn over, so go behind the yarn, put the yarn on the needle and leave it there, knit 1, yarn over, purl 1, and the edge stitch on the other side. So here we have it. Then turn the work, and this time we're going to slip our edge stitch with yarn in front, so bring the yarn to front, then knit 1, purl 3 stitches. So we just increased 2 stitches by making the yarn overs, knit 1, and again bring the yarn to front, slip the stitch as if to purl, and bring the yarn back. Turn the work. Again, knit 1, then the charted pattern, purl 1, knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, purl. the wrong side. Again, we are slipping the first stitch with yarn in front, so go behind the yarn into the stitch as if to purl, drop the stitch off the needle and bring the yarn back between the stitches. Knit one, so this is the charted pattern. Now we are on row 4, so purl, and remember, make sure you follow the chart that is intended for your size. So the sizes have slightly different charts, so make sure you follow that, and also the written pattern. Go behind the yarn and slip the last stitch with yarn in front. And we're just going to continue like this until we reach the row that has the first decreases, and then I will show you how to do those. I'm now ready to start making my first decreases. So I will again knit the first stitch. This was our edge stitch. And then I have one purl stitch, and then the pattern tells me to make a yarn over. Need to remember to follow the chart that is intended for your size, so this might look a bit different depending on what size you are making, but let's go through the basic decreases. So the first one is knit 2 together. So instead of knitting one, I will go through both of these stitches and knit them together. Then we have a yarn over and slip, slip, and knit these 2 stitches through the back loop. So this is the slip, slip, knit decrease. Again, knit 2, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, and the same thing. First knit 2 together, then the SSK, slip, slip, knit, decrease, so yarn over in the middle and slip as if to knit. The second one, slip as if to knit, put both of them back on your left needle and then knit them together through the back loop. So this is our SSK. Here's the knit 2 together, so it's leaning to the right, and SSK is leaning to the left. Knit the last 2 stitches, yarn over and purl. So my little triangle is now at a point where I can start making the bubbles. I will show you how to make them, but for this sample I'm not going to make bubbles, so I'm going to make a bubble free top, since I already made this one with the bubbles. So you can choose whether you want to make the bubbles or not. This one is going to be without the bubbles, but I will still show you how to make them. So I'll just start the next row. The first stitch was a knit stitch, then a purl, then knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, and a slip, slip, knit, decrease over here, and then we have purl 2, and then you have the bubble mark, the letter B in your chart, so that is the bubble. And what I'm going to do for the next stitch, I'm going to increase 1 stitch into 3 stitches. So I go into the stitch, then make a yarn over, so I have the stitch still on my left needle, and then knit it again. So the stitch is increased into 3 stitches, as you can see. Then I turn to work, and on the wrong side I will purl the 3 stitches that I just made. Then again turn the work, I will knit them, and one more time from the purl side, purl the 3 stitches, 1, 2 and 3. So here's my little bubble, and then we have slip 2, knit 1, pass the stitches over, decrease. So I will slip the next 2 stitches as if to knit, then knit 1 and pass these stitches off the needle. And here's our bubble. So then I will just continue in the pattern as I did earlier. And on the following routes I usually try to make the bubbles pop out even more, so I take them in my hand and just like twist the base of it so that it becomes more outward and more bubbly. But since I'm not going to make the bubbles for this one, so I'm going to skip them. Let's just undo this. So instead of making the bubble, I will just make 1 purl stitch for this one, and then slip, slip, knit, decrease, and continue in the pattern. But you can choose whether you want to make the bubbles or not. It's your choice. If you want to make the bubbles, it looks like this. And as soon as I have finished this one, then you can see how it looks without the bubbles. So continue until you reach the end of chart 1 intended for your size. I'm now at the end of the first chart 1. So this is our left front triangle, and it might look a bit different depending on what size you are making. And as you can see, I left out the bubbles, so it looks like this without the bubbles. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut the yarn. Just remember to leave enough yarn end to weave in the ends later on. And then you can either use a piece of waste yarn or a cable cord. I like using the cable cord. It makes it so much easier for you to pick up the stitches later on. So I just put the cord here at the tip of my needle, and then just slide all the stitches of the needles onto the cord. So here we have the stitches, and I usually make a little knot at the end to prevent the stitches from falling off the cord. So our first triangle, and the thing I'm going to do next is to repeat these steps. So make the cast on the same way you did earlier and repeat the chart 1 for the right front triangle. When you reach the end of the chart 1, don't cut the yarns and leave the stitches on the needles. So we're going to continue with the front after that. So let's do that. Now I have made 2 little triangles according to chart 1, and I'm ready to join them together. So what I'm going to do is I will work row 1 of chart 2. Remember to check the correct chart for your size until I have only this last stitch, the edge stitch remaining, and then we will join the second triangle to this one. So I'll just work to the end of the row and leave the last stitch unworked, and then I'll show you how to join the pieces. So here I have my last stitch, and to make this a bit easier, I will just slip it on my right needle for a little while, And then I'll take the second triangle and take these stitches back on my needle. So I will just undo the knot here and put these stitches on my left needle so that I'm ready to work them. Next, just slide the stitches of the cord back on the left needle. And now I will put the stitch back on the left needle and work these two together as purl through the back loop, purl two together. So I'm going to work these two together purl wise, so purl two together. So go through both of the edge stitches and just purl them together, and then continue to the end of the row 1 of chart 2 with the stitches from the second triangle. And after that, work row 2 of the chart indicated for your size as established. So continue in the pattern for the next row, and then I will show you what to do next. So here we go. For sizes 4, 5 and 6, there's going to be the pattern continuing over here on the side, so just keep following the chart 2 according to your size until you are on the last row of the chart 2. And for sizes 1, 2 and 4, after you finish the chart 2, then you will start working the armhole increases, and I will show that to you a bit later on, but I'm going to make this one into a size 3. So for this version the increases will still continue on the side, but it's going to be made in stockinette stitch. So this pattern will continue as it is on the front, but the last of the increases will be made in stockinette stitch, so a bit different for this size. So for all the other sizes except 4, 5 and 6, the chart 2 is only 2 rows, and after that you will change working from chart 3. And I will show you now how to start making the increases on the sides if you are working those sizes that have to make one right and make one left increases. So sizes 3 and then 5 to 9. So for those I will show now how to make increases. Other sizes just continue in the pattern until the end of chart 2 and then the armhole increases. So I will start by knitting the first stitch, and then we have a make one left increase. So I'm picking up the yarn between the 2 stitches from behind. I will put it on my needle and then knit it through the back loop. So this is our left linen increase, and then just put this stitch marker over here and continue in the pattern as established until the end of the row. So after I have completed row 1 of chart 3 and I have the edge stitch left, I will place a marker and then pick up the yarn between the stitches. It's a bit harder on this side, and I take it from from front to back and then put it on the left needle, and then so I will just twist it on the needle. So I took it from front to back and then just knit it through the front loop So this is our right leaning increase, so make one right increase and then just knit the last stitch. And on the purl side, so turn the work and slip the first stitch with yarn in front as we have done earlier, purl this new stitch that we created on the last row, and then work in the pattern as established until the end of the row. So work row 2 of chart 3, and at the end of the row just slip the marker, purl 1 and knit, oh not knit, slip the last stitch with yarn in front. And then again the same thing, so knit the first stitch, let's make a left leaning increase over here, so put the yarn on the needle and then knit it through the back loop and knit until the stitch marker, slip the marker, and then work the next row of the chart indicated for your size. And at the end of the row, knit until you have one stitch remaining, make the right leaning increase and knit the last stitch. So continue like this, check the pattern on how many increases you have to make for your size, and after that we can make the back. So just continue with this one and then I will show you what to do. So after you have finished all the increases for the sides, then you can continue to the back, and it's going to be exactly like the front. So what I'm going to do is I will put all the stitches on hold at this point. So again using a cable cord, let's make a little knot here at the end and cut the yarns. So I have my first piece over here, and then I will repeat these instructions for the back. So make another similar piece like this. So start with the first triangle, make the second triangle, combine them, work chart 2, and then if needed work the increases on the sides as well as start working according to chart 3 if that applies for your size. And when you get to the same point on the second part, leave the stitches on needles, don't cut the yarn. We will then combine the front and back. So I will make similar piece like this, and then I will show you how to cast on stitches for the underarm and join the front and the back. So I have now finished the second part. So this is the front and this is the back, although they are identical, so it doesn't really matter which one is which one. But this is the second one that I made, and I'm now ready to join them together. And I've been working this on a 40 centimeter or 16-inch cable, so I'm going to be changing for a longer cable at the same time. So what I'm going to do, I'll just first work this first row. So I will knit the first stitch as we have done, and then knit until the marker. Although if you are working sizes 1, 2 or 4 you don't have the knit stitches here, so just continue in the pattern and working the next row of the chart. So just do that. The last stitch of the chart pattern, and if you don't already have a stitch marker at this point, then add one now and knit until the end of the row. So for some sizes it's only one stitch, and I can now remove the shorter needle and continue just with the longer one. And now I'm going to cast on stitches for the underarm, so check the pattern on how many stitches you need to cast on. For some sizes it's just one stitch, some sizes 3, and so on. So I'm going to use the cable cast on method. So what I'm going to do, I will turn the work around so I have the wrong side of the work facing me, and go between these two stitches. So not into this stitch but in between the two stitches, and pick the yarn and pull the loop on my needle. And you can use leave this quite loose at the moment, it will tighten later on. So go between the stitch that we just made and the last stitch on the needle, and then again pull the loop. And for this size I will make one more, so pick the yarn between the needles and pull it on the left needle, and then I will turn the work so the right side is facing me again. So here are my new stitches on the needles, and the next thing I'm going to do, I will take the stitches we had on hold and put them back on my needles. So just undo your waste yarn or stitch cord, over here, and just slide the stitches of the cord back onto your needle, so on your left needle. So here's my second part back on the needles, and these were the stitches I just cast it on. So I will just work until the next marker, or for sizes 1, 2 and 4 knit the first stitch and then place a marker, and again work the next round of the chart. So that was the same round as you did for the back, and work until the end of the row, and then we will cast on stitches for the second underarm. And again, if you don't have a marker at the end of the chart, add one here and then knit until the end of the row. So for some sizes it's just the last stitch, and some have more stitches here at the end. So just knit until the end, and again we will cast on the same amount of stitches for the second underarm. So I will again use the cable cast on, but if you found that one hard, you can also use the back loop method, which is just by twisting the yarn around your finger and then taking the loop here on your needle and tightening it. So just twist and tighten. But I will do the cable cast on also for this side. So turn the work and go between the stitches and pull the loop. This will create a slightly tighter cast on than the back loop method, and also it's a bit neater. So that's why I prefer this one. And then we are ready to join the pieces in a round. So at this point I recommend that you check the ring of stitches so that everything is pointing the same way. So here I have a twist. So what I'm going to do, just twist these stitches around, and let's check it again. Now everything is pointing at the same direction, everything is aligned, so I can join this in the round. And I will just knit until the next marker, and this is going to be our beginning of the round from now on. And now I'm just going to continue in the charted pattern both on the back and the front, and then knit the stitches between the markers at the underarm. So we are now working in the round, so no longer working flat. So check out the charted pattern and make sure you are working all the rows from right to left, no more working from the wrong side to left to right. And also check out the abbreviations. I have now made it to the end of the chart, and after this I will start the stockinette stitch section. So instead of working in lace, I will just knit all the stitches. So let's continue with this pattern. So I will just knit all the stitches, and at the same time I can remove all the extra stitch markers. So just leave the beginning of the round marker on your needles, and you can take all these extra markers away from the work, so you don't need those anymore. So now just knit everything. Don't worry about the charted pattern anymore, so just continue and knit all the rounds until you are pleased with your body length. So this one has a cropped body length, but you can easily adjust it to suit your own body measurements. So you can try it on, you can put the stitches, for example, on a piece of waste yarn, on a cable cord, or two longer circular needles, so that half of the stitches are on one needle and the second part on another one, and try it on to find the perfect length for you. So this doesn't have any ripping at the bottom, so it's only the folded hem. So because of that, make it to the exact length that you want, because the next thing we are going to do is the purled folding round, and then we're going to do the fold. So the length that we are knitting is going to be the exact length of the top, so there's not going to be anything extra below that anymore. So just continue, knit everything in the round until you are pleased with the length, and then I will show you how to do the fold. So I'm now happy with my body length, and I'm going to work the purled round over here. So just instead of knit, purl all the stitches. So the whole next round will be purled, and this will make it easier to fold the hem. So just purl everything, and then we will knit a little piece over here. So purl one round and then continue in the knit stitch for 2.5 to 3 centimeters, something like this, and then we will just bind off everything. So I will work this round, and then make the knitted section, and I will show you how to bind off the stitches next. So I can now remove the beginning of the round marker, we don't need that anymore, and then just start binding off stitches. So I will knit the first 2 stitches and then go into the first stitch that I knitted and pull it over the second one and off the needles, and then again knit 1, take the stitch and pull it off the needle, and continue like this until the end of the round, until you have 1 more stitch remaining. After I have bound off all the stitches, I will just stretch out the last stitch and pull the yarn, and then I will take a bit over the amount that is the whole width of the piece, so I have slightly more than that, and then I will just cut the yarn and pull it through the remaining stitch. The next thing I will do, I will sew this fold on the wrong side of the work, so you can see that the purled round already makes it easier for me to fold this hem, so it starts folding along the purled line naturally. And then just put my yarn on tapestry needle and we can start sewing this in place. So with your thumb hold the hem in place where it naturally sets, and then I'll just pick a stitch from the wrong side and pull the yarn through and start going along the hem and stitch it in place. So I will pick part of this stitch and then go into a corresponding stitch on the body, and I usually don't take every one, I take every second. So just pull the yarn through. And you can continue like this until you have sewed the whole hem, so you have gone through the whole round, and then just weave in the end. And the next thing we're going to do are the straps. So after I have finished doing this, I will show you how to make the straps. After finishing the hem, it's time to do the straps, and at this point you can decide which side you want to be the front and which one to be the back, because they are identical. So just pick the side that you like more and make that your front. So if you have made a little mistake somewhere in the lace pattern, or you have some uneven stitches, then maybe you want to have that on the back and the better side on the front. We'll start with this one, so I will keep this one as my front and the other one can be my back. So I'm taking my needles and then undoing this provisional cast on from the top corner of the front. It doesn't really matter if you start with this or this one, because the straps are also identical. So I'm just taking the stitches that I had on hold, the provisional cast on, make sure you catch all 5 stitches on your needles, and this is why I like the nitty provisional cast on. Now that I have my stitches on my needles, I can just pull the yarn out and I have my stitches on my needles at the moment. So the next thing, just bring your working yarn back to work, and since I'm working with yarn held double, I'm going to continue with 2 strands of yarn, and I'm bringing them to the beginning of the row, and then just start knitting. So you knit all your 5 stitches, and the last one, and then we are working the straps as I-cords. So I'm just slipping everything back on the left needle, so slip all the stitches as if to purl, so don't twist the base, and then knit them all again. So the yarn comes from the back, not turning to work at all. So keep the yarn at the back and just slip everything back on your left needle and start from the beginning of the row again. So always seem to have dropped some of the stitch. So always knit the 5 stitches, then slip them back, and the yarn is at the back all the time. And again. So if you're working with a short cable or double pointed needles, you can always just pull the needle back to the other side, especially if you're working with double pointed needles. It might be easier to just slide the stitches back to the other end of the needle and not slip them at all, and continue like this until you are happy with the strap length. You can try the top on when you're knitting the cord and see what is the perfect length for you. And when you're taking measurements, remember to stretch the strap, because it's going to stretch when you're wearing it, and if you don't stretch it at this point, you're going to end up with too long straps. So do this, and then I will show you the Kitchener stitch, how to join it with the back. So when you're pleased with the strap length, you can just cut the working yarn or yarns, and just remember to leave some 20 to 30 centimeters of yarn, so we can use that for the Kitchener stitch. And then make sure you take the triangle from the back so that you're not combining the fronts together. So make sure you have your underarm over here, and then just take the stitches from the back on your needles. So undo the provisional cast on from your back triangle. Make sure it's the matching back triangle, and then we can undo our waist yarn. Just pull it out, and then bring your needles parallel to each other. Make sure your I-cord is straight so it hasn't twisted, and double check that all the pieces are aligned so you're not twisting anything at this moment. And then let's take the yarn. Let's see where I have the yarn end over here. So let's put that on my needles. Now my tapestry needle. So let's take our yarn on our tapestry needle, and then we will first go through the first stitch on the front needle. So we will go into it as if to knit and just pull the yarn through. And then on the back needle, go into the stitch as if to purl and pull the yarn through. Then go into the first stitch on the front needle as if to knit, and then as if to purl. So let's take our working yarn, or in this case, because I'm using the yarn held double, then our working yarns on our tapestry needle, and again double check that everything is aligned and this I-cord is straight, it hasn't twisted. And let's go into the first stitch on the front needle as if to purl. So let's go in from right to left, and on this side as if to knit, so from left to right. And pull the yarn. And then as if to knit, as if to purl. And on this side as if to purl and as if to knit. Again, as if to knit, as if to purl, and as if to purl. So go into the stitch, and let's continue like this until we reach the end of the row. So only 5 stitches over here. And when I reach the last one, so I have 1 stitch remaining on both needles, then go into the stitch as if to knit, drop it off the needle, and as if to purl, and drop it off the needle. And here's our first strap. And then you can just weave this yarn end on the back of the work, and I just weave it into the I-cord tube that we just created, then just go back and cut the yarn. So the next thing I will do is just do the second strap in the same way, and after that it's time to block. So just weave in all the yarn ends and block it. How I usually block my knits, I put it in the sink or a washing basin and I fill it with a lukewarm water, let it soak there for 15 to 20 minutes. And then I take it out, I try to press out as much excess water as I can, and then I put it on a towel, lay flat, and with the towel I usually roll the knit, and then I step on the towel roll, so I will get out all the excess water, and then just lay it out flat to dry. I usually, with lace patterns, I try to open the lace with my hands as much as possible. If you want, you can pin it down. I don't usually do that, but you can do it also if you want. But I think usually it is enough that I open the pattern, the lace pattern, as much as I can with my fingers, and then just leave it flat to dry, and then it's ready for use. So here you can see my finished top, and it looks like this when I'm wearing it. Super happy about it. I really love the cropped length and yeah, everything about it. So I'm sure this is going to be such a summer favorite for me. So I hope you have enjoyed this little tutorial, and I hope this also encourages you to pick up a new project, because I think many people always say that my patterns look very complicated, but they actually aren't as complicated as they look like. So just be brave and try out new things. It's often much easier than it actually looks like. And if you like my videos, remember to subscribe to my channel. I will add a link to my Ravelry group and my Ravelry store below this video as well. So if you want to check out my other patterns, you can find them there. Bye!